Today we're joined by Ahmed Abdullah, who's a teacher, he's a musician, he's a former member of the Sun Ra Band, and also an award-winning filmmaker, Oscar Sanders. Okay.
Well, before we start, let me just give the station ID. This is WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, coming from the campus of City College. If you want to call in and pose a question to our guest, you can call in at 212-491-4685, or if you want to watch us live, you can go to www.whcr.org, www.whcr.org. All right, Henry, we can start.
Yeah, we're in honor of Black Music Month. We thought we would discuss music that's not usually given a platform, and that's jazz. More specifically is the music of Sun Ra. And Brother Abdullah, could you give us a little information?
History. Give us history.
Yes,
on
exactly.
I'd be glad to. Sun Ra was a.
You got a jazz voice too. You got that old raspy.
It's a trumpet player's voice.
Okay, I knew it was something
It
familiar
comes out
about
of the Louis Armstrong tradition.
Yeah, that's what it was.
All trumpet players think they can sing because Louis Armstrong could sing.
Okay.
So,
All right.
we try anyway.
Okay.
But to your question, Sun Ra came. He talked about arrivals and departures. Right. He didn't deal with life and death. So he said he arrived on the planet in 1914 in Birmingham, Alabama, and he actually departed from the planet in 1993 in Birmingham, Alabama. So he would say he made a round trip, from Birmingham, Alabama. But during that time that he was here, he recorded over 200 records. He traveled to 4 continents. He had many books written about him. He kept the band together for 40 years, and some of the people who were in that band stayed in that band with him for 40 years. He wrote thousands of compositions, some with lyrics, some with poetry. He wrote books of poetry. So he was quite an amazing being. I could not call him a man because he said he was neither man nor woman. He was angel. And he just came to planet Earth to teach us earthlings who did not know enough, so he came to enlighten us.
Yeah.
You said he came from another planet.
He came from Saturn. He said he came from Saturn.
And Brother Sanders said he had documentation to provide to support that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, well, if you were around him long enough, you would believe he came from someplace other than Earth. Yeah, and if you lived like he lived in Birmingham, Alabama, and had the kind of mind he had, you probably would think you were somewhere else anyway, because Birmingham, Alabama, in the 1914, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s was not a place where black people wanted to be necessarily.
Town.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
He said something about one of the things I read. He rejected this planet because the people didn't know how to live in peace. And so I can understand someone being so appalled by the behavior that you would figure, hey, you're not from here, particularly if you don't have that same kind of spiritual sense of being about you.
Absolutely, yeah. It's some backwards stuff, some backwards thinking, and it's still going on. Even in 2012, we have people who want to do everything they can to block our president from getting a second term. So people are still acting, like the civil war is being fought, in this country.
Or uncivilized.
Uncivilized. That's
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, uncivilized.
Yeah.
I know I was looking at something, and it was saying how when this music in the 70s, it started with this free form. Is that the same as avant-garde?
Well, if you want to deal with the history of the music, you have to look at there are several periods of the music. The music begins, certainly with something that was called ragtime. You see, now Sun Ra was born during that period of time, during the era that we would call ragtime, right? And then there was swing, and then there was bebop, and then there was a modal type of music, and then there was what the people call avant-garde, yeah? And now we're in an era where all of those musics coexist. You see what I'm saying? I say it's all music of the spirit. I say all of our music, jazz, is a music of the spirit because we're a spiritual people, and we use that music to define our humanity when people wanted to take our humanity away from us. The only thing that we had was art forms that could really allow us to show that we were human beings, because all human beings create art, you see, and art is about civilization. You see what I'm saying? So if people are telling you constantly that you're uncivilized, that you have no culture, that you're not even a human being, then what you have to do, because we all are human beings, you know, you have to create something to say, boom, this is what I am, this is who I am, this is what I do. So I defy what you say about me, because this is who I am. Yeah? And so that's what we did. And so I say we did that with our spirit. Yeah, we did that with our spirit. We did it in many different art categories, in many different art directions. Right? We did it with music, we did it with art, we did it with dance, we did it with poetry. You know, we did it in every area that we could find a way to do it.
So would you say that, would it be safe to say that art kind of defined us as a people, or allowed us to express ourselves and thereby define and give expression to who we were as a people?
Absolutely, because human expression, that's what, you know, I tell the kids I teach, I say that you got to be able to speak, right? The first instrument that we're given is the voice, right? Oftentimes we weren't able to speak, you know, as human beings. We weren't able to express our feelings, you know, verbally. So we had to then use other means to be able to express our feelings. So the art took over, you know, when we couldn't express it vocally, we had to express it somehow, because that's what we have to do as human beings. Yeah, it's a natural thing for human beings to express themselves.
And so Brother Abdullah, you're a trumpet player. What other instruments do you play?
Well, I played trumpet. I was playing the drums today because today at our school we deal with the Day of the African Child. The 16th of June is Soweto Day. You know, if you're not familiar with Soweto Day in South Africa, in the 1970s, some students decided that they did not want to be taught by the people who had enslaved them, who were taking over their country, and they students determined that they wanted to be taught in their own language. And they protested, and many of them were shot down, you know, as a result of it. So that day becomes a very sacred day, because it was a day when some young children said, we are going to determine our own destiny, in South Africa. And so the United Nations declared June 16th, that day, that happened in Soweto Day, the Day of the African Child. And at our school, you know, we've been celebrating this for 25 years. You know, all of the children come out and they learn African dances, and you know, we have drummers come out and play. And so I was playing with the drummers today. So, you know, drums is another instrument that I play. Trumpet is one. Clarinet. You know, I teach these instruments. Saxophone. You know, when you're a music teacher, you gotta teach
everything.
Everything.
What school is this? Give a shout out to the school.
Yeah, the school is PS3. It's the Bedford Village School, and our motto is that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, I know the children, they rejected Afrikaners.
Absolutely.
They
That's
said,
right.
hey, we're
That's
not
right.
going to be speaking Dutch.
That's right.
And,
We're African
and we're
people.
not speaking
That's right.
our indigenous language.
That's right.
Brother Saunders, you're also a musician.
Yes.
As well as a...
Well, I call myself right now a musician in sabbatical, you know.
Okay.
So right now I'm not playing, but I have all my instruments parked. But I was a guitar player. And, you know, I started out basically around 1979, and I started playing in funk and rock bands, and always loved jazz. And what happened was Billy Bang used to babysit me, and so you know, I was always hanging out with guys that were a lot older than I am, a lot wiser than I am. And then I guess that stuff like rubbed off on me. So after I went through a period where I was playing at, you know, places like Harlem World and Rennie's and Viticus and Justine's, you know, in the 80s and that whole era there, my brother, who was also a drummer that played with Billy, had told him that I was playing. And Billy said, come on down. So then I made my conversion to start playing jazz. And I actually left college, you know, because at this time, this was like when the wall was up, you know, and Europe was still separated, and it was like a world experience. And I said, man, I got to go with that, you know. So that was a world of experience and knowledge that I learned, you know, just through music, how I learned things culturally. And, you know, so then you know, eventually, you know, started hanging out with all these great people I met, and, you know, we started working together and doing stuff together. And,
I just want to take a moment to say that we are WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, coming to you from the campus of City College. And if you want to give us a call, it's 212-491-4685. And if you want to watch us live on stream, it's www.whcr.org.
Yes. So you were telling us this whole progression of
So I was morphing into different people and different, you know, behaviors, and so, you know, from that point I started playing, and then I had some personal problems, so that kind of like allowed me to, like, you know, separate myself from music for a little while. And at that point, you know, I had started at 17 years old making movies with like Super 8, doing Bell and Howell. We used to like put, you know, like flour in like baggies, you know, and we would make all this cocaine. You know, we'd go out to airports and we'd like rent cabs. And this is 17, 18 years old. This is crazy. Everybody else is getting in trouble, you know. And we were going out and we were shooting these movies, man. You know, at the airport, people were just, you know, they were astounded that they could say, "What are these kids doing, man?" They're like, you know, and they would just stop watching us. We would jump out of cabs. We had pistols that were fake, and, you know, we were exchanging drugs and all that. So that was like my experience with film. Then I kind of put that down and did the music. And then in 2005, I picked it up again. You know, I started making movies, and I started out, you know, doing some short films, and then, you know, I did some feature films, and I started getting some awards and had some success where, you know, movies were playing in like Dubai, India, you know, France, England, all across the United States, and I started getting some awards. And I started doing music videos, and I started getting awards for those too. And then, you know, I was always supporting the music. I was always, regardless of the fact that I wasn't playing anymore, I was always showing up with these guys, wherever they were at, you know. So then Billy came to me and said, he said, you know, some people have had me in movies, you know. I've done movies about me. I was really happy with the movie. You know, I wanted something that was different. I wanted something that dealt with actually like how musicians communicate. So this movie, Billy Bang, Long Overdue, deals with the circuitry. Like if you pick up a phone, you know, there are things inside that phone that communicate with each other that when you press buttons, things happen. That we don't care about. We never care about. We just want the phone to work, you know? And that's the same thing if you're watching Kobe doing work. The same thing. Athletes do the same thing. They communicate. The audience doesn't know, but they're communicating. Scream, pick, back up. You know, listen. Musicians do the same thing. They do the same thing. They communicate with each other to give the audience what they get. And that's what this movie is about. This movie is a very educational movie that allows you to understand a lot of times how music is made and the language that musicians speak to each other. But it uses Billy Bang as a catalyst.
How did that title come into existence?
Billy Bang, Long Overdue.
Long Overdue.
Basically because, you know, there should have been at least 20 movies about this guy. This man has been playing music for over 30-something years. He has 20 albums and CDs as a leader, 15 as a sideman. You know, and there's no way in the world that, I mean, he's been written about, but there was really no real perennial movie about him, a movie that, you know, really embodied what he was.
I'm really interested in what you're talking about, the intricacies of the music industry, like the things that allows artists to communicate amongst each other. I'm really interested in what that kind of looks like. I'll probably have to wait until the movie or watch the movie to really understand what it is fully that you're... But could you explain a little bit about some of the things, since I have two artists here, two musicians here, what are some of the things that really happen that allows musicians to communicate with one another that I wouldn't understand, that I wouldn't know, the layman wouldn't see or understand?
Well, you have to be able to understand what your position is, what part you play in a composition, in an area. Just like if you're playing basketball, you know, why are certain things not effective? It's because there's no spacing. And music is the same way. There has to be spaces. There has to be, you know, there has to be timing. There has to be who's moving what, and what complements what. You know, so you have to understand that each musician is really listening to one another, because if we're, you know, otherwise we're playing on top of each other. You know, the audience might say, "Oh, you know, they're playing all together." No, but the reason why that's happening is because people know where they fit in that tapestry, in that music. You know,
But I would say that you would understand it because it's what we're doing right here. You know, we're playing off each other and listening to each other and making this what we're doing, this radio interview work.
Right.
You know, is what we do in every endeavor. You know, that's what I was talking about in terms of spirit and the fact that in all of our art forms, that is what we're about. We're about spirit. You see, and you can take that and you can move that in any direction. You can move it into basketball, you can move it into golf, you can move it into tennis, you can move it into music, you know what I'm saying? You can move it into drama.
Into an interview.
Into an interview.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You know, because that's what when we come together, that's how we come together. We come together in spirit, because that's who we are.
Yeah, yeah. I remember they used to, I heard many people talk about Miles, the way he always gave space. And just listen to Oscar talk about it and say, oh yeah, you know, and then you coming on piggybacking and explaining how, you know, you allow for each other to come in
That's
and
right.
then go back out.
That's right.
You know, and that's
That's what we do.
that's what we do.
I wish they did that on the train. Allow for me to come in and go out without, you know, like,
yeah.
yeah.
But see, unfortunately, commuting is not an art. See, usually where there's art, there's you know where that comes from too? That's respect. That's respect. When if we're going to do something on an intellectual level, then we respect each other. So that we look for where, as they say, what, you get in where you fit in.
Right.
You
Does
know?
personalities affect that ability to do that?
Yeah, of course.
Like I can't imagine like a bunch of guys really great at what they do, and then like some personality could throw the whole thing off.
You could.
Sure.
You could.
Well,
That does
you
happen?
know, because ego gets in the way of spirit.
Oh.
Ego is the opposite
Yeah.
of spirit. You
Okay.
see,
Exactly.
when you start,
Yeah.
when you start bringing your ego in, the spirit runs away.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
You
Right.
see, because the ego is about me and spirit is about we.
Self-centered.
You know,
Right.
it doesn't work like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I remember when you were speaking about when we talked about long overdue. With son Roland Kirk, I remember there was a while where they went down, they were picketing the networks because they wasn't allowing them on. You know, him and a group of people, they went down and they were saying, hey, you know, because when I thought about long overdue in the sense that these great talents and you know, they keep trying to suppress them. And then when you start looking, like you mentioned that Ahmed said that Sun Ra had over 200 albums. You said, you know, Billy Bang over 3 decades. And when you walk around and outside of this country, or rather in this country, everybody's saying who. And when you leave this country, it's like these guys are icons, iconic figures.
Well, you know something too, that has a lot to do with how people, you know, people talk about indie movies and indie music, but a lot of times they still try to control it. You know, I read something where this guy's coming out with this thing called Cloud, movie Cloud. And this is a concept to bring more indie movies. He said that Hollywood makes, like, total Hollywood, makes 200 feature films. He said independents make about 150,000. Here's all that movie's going.
Right.
Because they're not recognizing things but what they want to recognize. And music does the same thing. You know, they have anointed certain people, you know, the ability to be wealthy and to make money and to live and to be respected. And other people, you know, they say, well, you know, we don't know where they fit in or you know what they're, you know, like doing. I was just recently trying to get this movie, and I'm still doing this, on a tour. And, you know, I'm trying to, and I came up with the idea to go to conservatories. And then another good buddy of mine, William Parker, bass player, is actually in this movie too. He said, really? He has like, you're really going to try to have an evening of discussion based on how important progressive jazz is, you know? And I started to see what he was talking about when I went to like the New England School of Music. I mean, you know, these people, and then, you know, at first they were like very respectful until I actually got to the people that were head of the departments.
Right.
And they would never get back to me.
I think prior to coming in, and we were talking about that, and I was saying my feeling is that I believe the dominant community, because they can't duplicate it. They can't produce the music. I think they're always threatened,
Right.
and they don't want to see a whole situation where it's just a bunch of artists who don't look like them. And so I think that's one of the reasons why they will always try to clear channel almost 2,000 stations, and so everything is homogenized.
Yeah. Well, if you notice that jazz probably is being far more recognized now than it was in any other time, and that's because you have a number of white players playing jazz. I mean, they're able to teach jazz in the university now. And so when people they can manufacture it in some way, you know, then it becomes much more popular. You know, but the thing that they can manufacture is spirit. You see what I'm saying? And this is why I say that at this point in our lives, you know, as African people on this continent, we have to say that our art forms are of the spirit, because that really separates it from any other art form. Yeah, it separates it from anything that's manufactured. You can't manufacture spirit. Yeah, you know, that's got to come from inside out. Yeah. And the more material you become, the more egoistic you become, and the less spiritual you become, you see. And so that's one of the problems that we have to deal with, because we do want to make money, but when you're making money, you got to always keep that spiritual, you know, concept, you know, in place. Yeah.
Okay, brothers, let me give another station ID. This is WHCR 90.3. The Voice of Harlem, coming to you from the campus of City College. If you want to give us a call, 212-491-4685. I think we're coming to a moment when we take a brief musical interlude, and we will be right back to continue our discussion.